I was wrong about this Newcastle United side, and was wrong, especially in the Champions League. I was convinced once Alexander Isak left them that they would struggle in the Champions League. And as it stands right now, they're in the top 8. They're in the top 8 after selling Alexander Isak, after missing out on a massive transfer target, Hugo Ekitike. Defensively right now, they're as strong as anyone. They are as strong as anyone, both in the Premier League and in the Champions League. Everyone knows my thoughts on Joelinton, Bruno G, and Tonali. You want a well-functioning midfield. You want a trio that know how each other works, have got a powerhouse in Joelinton, the energy in Tonali, and the finesse and the swagger in Bruno G. You want a well-functioning midfield that's as good as Liverpool's, in my opinion, as good as Chelsea's, as good as Madrid's. You just look at this Newcastle United team. Beat Benfica 3-0, beat Bilbao 2-0, beat Union St. Gilles 4-0. The only 2 goals they've conceded were against Barcelona. And let's be real, Barcelona that day, Marcus Rashford scored 2 unbelievable goals. Nick Pope tonight, absolutely fantastic. As a defensive unit, Pope, Dan Burn, they've got players in there that, in my opinion, don't necessarily get the credit they deserve. And if they can convert this Champions League form into the Premier League, because they have had a few away defeats this season, the one against West Ham, probably extremely painful. They lost away to Brighton. They drew away to Bournemouth. If they can improve in the Premier League, I think Newcastle United will have a very, very good season. Make sure you go down, drop a like on the video if you haven't already. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. There was some injury news as well. Gordon did go off quite early into the game. If I do miss anything, I do apologise, Newcastle United fans, because I did also have City's game on as well. And it's kind of hard to watch one game on the laptop and watch one on the telly, where Erling Haaland, Cherky and Phil Foden absolutely balled out tonight for City. But this Newcastle United side, very, very, very strong. The difference between how this team has played in the Champions League and how they've played in the Premier League is night and day recently. Voldemort has been a very, very good signing. Barnes, very, very clinical in the final third. Bruno G, Tonali and Joelinton, we know how they work. Dan Burn, Botman, I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Thiaw? And Trippier. Nick Pope, they have given as man of the match with 5 saves. 5 really, really good saves as well. Not the strongest of Bilbao sides. There was neither of the Williams brothers. Obviously, a great goalkeeper in Simon. But other than that, I mean, you go down to the injured players. They have got a lot of players out. Inaki Williams and obviously Nico Williams is out for a groin injury. And they have Senat as well, the attacking midfielder. Really, really good player. That being said, though, Wisa yet to kick a ball for Newcastle. Livramento, one of the best right-backs, is out. A bench, which is pretty good defensively there. Willock, obviously a good player. Ramsdale, Murphy, Kraft, and Shah. And they did bring on Murphy, Hall, Miley, and Elanga with Jacob Ramsey. When I look at this Newcastle United side, I think the only thing that you could maybe say they lack is depth. First team, I think, is really, really strong. If they do get an injury to Voldemort, they don't really have a huge amount of cover. On the left-hand side, if Gordon was to get injured, again, they don't have a huge amount of cover. I don't actually think Gordon has scored in the Premier League for quite some time. But we'll get into this game in a minute. I just want to look at the Champions League table. They're in the top 6. If I said to a Newcastle United fan, with Marseille up next, bearing in mind, PSG have got to play Spurs, which means we will probably lose that, so we will shoot down. Barca have got to play Chelsea, right? Liverpool have got to Real Madrid have still got to play City in there. Inter have got to play Atletico Madrid, and Bayern have to play Arsenal. I think if Newcastle United get something out of Marseille, which it's going to be tough, but when you look where Marseille are, they're quite far down. That's a must-win game for them as well, right? You look at how strong Newcastle United are defensively. They've only conceded 2 goals, which is the joint third best in the competition. They've conceded less goals than PSG, City, and Bayern Munich. The only team that hasn't conceded a goal yet is Arsenal. If they go out there and beat Marseille and then they beat PSV at home, I think they qualify. I even think they've got Leverkusen as well. That's not going to be easy. They've got 2 away Champions League games on the bounce. If they can get a draw in one of those games, but I reckon they beat Marseille. I reckon they'd take a draw against Leverkusen. If they then beat PSV Eindhoven, I don't think they'll get anything out of the PSG game. I think they qualify. And if Newcastle United can fix this Premier League form, have a good January window, get into the latter stage of the Champions League, because they are quite inconsistent in the league. I'll get into the game. I just want to talk about them from their position. It's so tight in the Premier League. You win at the weekend against Brentford, they're up to 10th. You win the following game, you're right up the table. And they have got some tough games coming their way. They just need to fix this inconsistency in the Premier League. They've got Brentford, City, Marseille, Everton, and Spurs all in their next 5. And then they played Leverkusen away in the Champions League. It's going to be tough. I think they've got the players to do it. Going away to Brentford on Sunday is always going to be tough. Brentford are very, very good at home. They beat Liverpool. It was a Donnarumma one to say they would have got a point against City. They are very, very good. With all that being said, I do like this Newcastle United team. Dan Burn gets the goal early in the first half. Fantastic ball in from Trippier, and it's typical Dan Burn style. It's a bullet header into the back of the net. And you're thinking, what a start. At St. James's Park against a strong, experienced Bilbao side that have got good European experience, got all the way to the semi-finals of the Europa League last year. Pope made some good saves in the first half, and you're thinking, right, get into halftime for 1-0 lead, get Eddie Howe to regroup with his players, and then kind of go from there. Excuse me, I've got hiccups. And that's exactly what they did. They went out there, they regrouped, and they were really, really good in that first half in terms of defensively. Didn't create a huge amount going forward, but they were very, very well set up, and they're very strong defensively. This Newcastle United side has huge levels when it comes to the defensive organisation. They regroup. You're talking go out there in the second half. Joelinton scores, basically puts the game to dead. Harvey Barnes with the assist. They could have scored straight after that for a goal through Tonali, which was unfortunate. In terms of the match stats, Bilbao did have some chances. I'm not going to lie. 5 shots on target from 12. Created some big chances in the game. Newcastle did. In terms of Bilbao, no big chances created. 58% possession for Newcastle United. Higher XG, higher big chances created, higher passing accuracy. Quite low, to be honest, from Bilbao. But it's a really, really good win. And once they get Visa up to speed, once they get once they get Livramento back, I do believe this Newcastle United. I'm going to say it right now. I think they qualify for the last 16. I do think they qualify. And going away to St. James's Park is as tough place as you will get. I know they lost to Arsenal and I know they lost to Barcelona, but normally they're very, very strong at home. They're in a good position when it comes to the League Cup as well. They beat us, only a few days ago. And when you get to mid-December, they do play their next game against Fulham. And I actually do believe in this game, they will progress to the semi-finals. And they are as good as anyone in that competition. Eddie Howe's record is 1 defeat in his last 18 games in this competition. So fair play to Newcastle United. It's not easy to lose a big player like that in Alexander Isak. It's not always easy to not get the transfer targets you want. But they're making do with what they've got. If they can get a couple of back-to-back wins in the Premier League, one thing I will say is if they do lose that game against Brentford, with the run they've got coming up, it is going to be quite tough for them. They go back to City, Marseille, Everton away, Spurs. It's a big 5 games. I actually do think they will beat Brentford. City normally struggle there. If it wasn't for that Oscar Bob a few years ago, they wouldn't have got something. The year before that, they drew 3-3 when St. Maximin had that City defence on toast. Marseille, 36-year-old Aubameyang playing up front. I'm not massively, I wouldn't be massively frightened by Everton. We comfortably beat them. But listen, they're in a very, very good position. I do think they qualify. Make sure you drop a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you next time.